And welcome back to the channel. Mr. Acolyte here, coming at you with my guide for how to play Vikala. This is a character that I recently got very attached to out of nowhere. I just started playing her on a whim, and man, I just started having so much fun that I really couldn't stop. It really got me like heavily back into playing Grand Blue again. This character, while considered to be very low tier at the time of this video, is extremely fun to play, but can be a little tricky to get going. So after playing her for quite a while and getting her to master, I thought I would make a guide to help other people have fun with this character just like I've been doing. This guide's going to cover all of the basics, everything that you need to know to get started. We're going to go over all of her buttons, special moves, items, her general game plan, offense, combo, Oki, basically everything you need to succeed with a character like Vikala. I got plenty of tips and tricks to share, so before we get started, make sure you hit that like button. It does help out the channel a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Also subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming guides. I got a lot more guides coming after this one for a lot more games. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and break down how to play Vikala. Okay, so starting off, let's go ahead and talk about Vikala's buttons, starting with her light attacks. Her 5L is a pretty standard poke. It's got decent range on it, and it is your fastest button, so this is what you'll be using to try to take back your turn or to punish unsafe attacks. Her 2L is also pretty standard. It is a short range low, and you'll be using this in your stagger game. Her mediums, starting with her 5M, this right here is basically your go-to poke. It starts up very fast. As you can see, it's 7 frames, only 1 frame slower than your jab. So this is a very fast button. It's also got a very small hurt box, so it doesn't often lose to other pokes. And just in general, it's just a great poke because it has a lot of pushback too. We'll talk about why that's good a little bit later. But yeah, when it comes to poking, your 5M is going to be your standout button by far. 2M, this does a lunging strike here. This button is more situational than the 5M. Basically, this is your combo filler. You're going to use this button a lot in combos, and also you're going to be using it on certain reads because this is one of your only reliable ways of beating a roll. 5H, this does a really big swipe with Dormouse. Honestly, this button looks a lot better than it is. With the way that it looks, you would think that this is really good. But in my opinion, this button is pretty bad. It gets stuffed really, really easily, and it's super weak to roll. If somebody rolls at the right time, you can be very easily punished. I would say only use this if the opponent is really conditioned, but in most instances, you're just going to be using 5M instead of 5H. And then we have down heavy. This is a pretty standard anti-air. When people are jumping, this is the button that you'll be using to stop them. Keep in mind though that it is a little stubby, so if someone jumps from a bit of a distance, it's not gonna work. They do have to be relatively close for this one to actually anti-air properly. That does it for her grounded buttons. For jumping buttons, her jump light is this funny little trumpet attack. Pretty standard. You're not really going to be using this that much. It's just sort of an air-to-air. Somebody jumps with you and you want to beat them out, or if you just have a read and you want to come down with an active attack, it's kind of okay for that. Her jump medium, however, again, that's going to be more of your go-to button. This is a great falling button. It's very plus if you hit it deep enough, and it is your cross-up button as well. This is good for jump-ins, air-to-airs, cross-ups, pretty much whatever you need. And then jump H is also very, very good. Unlike the stand H, this one is pretty reliable because of the distance that it hits. This is great for jumping in because you can tag things from very far away, and it's also good for air-to-airs because of the same reason. It'll stuff out attacks from really far, so if you want a neutral jump and stop people from approaching in the air, JH is a great option for that. Now, for her unique attack, her 5U, that does the item toss. This is going to get its own section because this is probably the deepest aspect of the whole character. So we're not going to really break this down now. We're going to break this down in just a little bit. But yeah, 5U on the ground and in the air both trigger the item toss. But again, we'll explain that here in just a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and start breaking down Vikala's special moves. Her special moves are very robust with a lot of different use cases. So let's go ahead and break them down one by one, starting with her back special. Her back special is her dedicated fireball. The light version is a short range fireball with a lower hitting attack box. So the fact that it is lower hitting means that the opponent cannot roll through it. This basically forces the opponent to have to block this, and if they want to get around it, they have to either spot dodge or jump. The medium version goes full screen and has a higher attack box, so this one can be rolled. However, if the opponent does end up blocking it, it's actually plus on block, so you do not lose your turn. The EX version is kind of a combination of the two. It goes full screen relatively quickly. It's still negative on block, much like the light version, but the benefit of the EX is that it actually causes a wall bounce. And lastly, we have the ultimate version. This one comes out super fast and goes full screen very, very quickly. It also does a ton of damage and forces a hard knockdown. So this is one of your best ultimate skills. It does a whole lot all on its own. The main way you'll be using this is to confirm some of your combos at neutral, to end some of your combos, and it's one of your best ways of dealing with the opponent throwing fireballs at you. This will eat through just about any normal or EX fireball on reaction. Okay, moving on, the next special is her down special. That is the mousetrap. Now, this has even more uses than the fireball. Let's go ahead and break this one down. So whenever you call the mousetrap, she will shoot it out a certain distance depending on the button. The light version sends it somewhat close to her. So whenever the mousetrap comes out, if it comes into contact with the opponent, it will bite at them. If it doesn't come in contact with the opponent, it will simply stay on the screen and be a persistent threat that the opponent has to watch out for. While it is out, it will automatically attack the opponent the moment they get close. This works even if they try to jump over it. Because of this, the opponent is going to want to move forward and attack it because it can be destroyed by the opponent. So often, anytime the opponent sees this on the screen, they're always going to try to move forward and destroy it. But because they're attacking the trap, that leaves them open to being attacked by you. And that's all just the light version. The medium version has all the same properties, but it sends the trap out much further. You would use this one when you want to just, buy yourself a lot more space, or if you're trying to be a bit more aggressive, because again, it will bite as soon as it gets to the opponent. So if you want to put some pressure on the opponent from far away, the medium version is a good option for that. Something to note is that the mousetrap has literally no recovery. Whether it's in trap mode or attack mode, you can call it again immediately. So if you can really just kind of harass your opponent and just be obnoxious with this move, because it has basically no recovery on when you can call it again. So what about the EX version? So the EX version has its own properties. Rather than being a trap, it's more of an actual projectile attack. When you call the EX version, it just flies out and attacks the opponent directly. It will travel all the way across the screen until it gets to them and does one big bite that leaves you very plus. This forces the opponent to have to try to spot dodge it or jump over it. And the best thing about the EX version is the opponent cannot destroy it. And then the ultimate version is basically a powered up version of the EX. It moves across the entire screen, chasing the opponent, but that one does 2 bites. So you're even more plus on block and you get a bigger conversion chance on hit. Next up, her forward special is the pinwheel. Just like her other ones, this is a pretty robust move. It's got a lot of different use cases, starting with the light version. So this is a horizontal projectile with some pretty strange properties. If you hit it from up close, it is negative. If you look at the frame data on the left there, if I hit it from up close, it's -8. From a little bit further away, -1. From max distance, +7. So because this fireball persists on the screen for a bit, it makes it really good if you space it. So that's kind of the general idea, is you want to space this fireball out. And right there, you can see I was +16 because I got that at max distance. So the further you are when you toss it, the more pushback it has and the more plus frames it has. Remember earlier we talked about how her 5M is good because it's so fast and has so much pushback? Well, it helps right here too. If I do 5M into pinwheel, perfectly spaces it out for plus frames. Moving on to the medium version, it's the same idea, but this is the anti-air version. The light version is meant for stopping opponents from approaching. The medium version stops people from jumping. If you have a read that you think the opponent might jump, this is really great for that, because even if they jump and block, it makes it insanely plus. And if they block it on the ground, same thing, insanely plus. So if you space this move properly, it is highly, highly beneficial. Moving on to the EX version, this one is just straight up plus. No matter where you do it, it is just plus on block. The further away, the more plus, but even if you are directly in front of them, it allows you to keep your turn. So anytime you feel like keeping your offense up at the cost of 1 card, go ahead and burn that EX pinwheel. And then the ultimate version of the pinwheel is your uppercut. This is your invincible move. This is how you get people off of you. Okay, so now that we've covered the basics of her special moves, it's finally time to start talking about her item system. This is the main focus of her entire kit. Let's go ahead and break down how these items actually work. If you take a look at the little icon underneath the health and super bar, you'll see the next bar. That shows you what item is going to appear in the queue next. So whatever item you see up there is what item she will toss when you press unique. So every time you press it, it's gonna cycle through, and the next bar lets you know whether or not it's an item you wanna use and in what way you want to use it. She has a lot of different items, and each one of them have a different effect and a different situation where you're gonna wanna activate them. So a big part of playing this character is going to be keeping an eye on the item bar, and when a good item pops up, you're going to want to use it. Something to note about the item bar is that you always start with the beach ball. Every single time the match starts, that's what it's gonna start with. And once you throw it, the next item's always gonna be random. Now, the next item, as you can see, it only stays there for a few seconds. So if it is something good, you're gonna have to try to hurry up and get it out there because it will cycle without you. But on the other hand, if it's an item that you don't want, same thing, it won't be there for too long. So if you're just a little bit patient, it might switch to something good while you're waiting. So now that we get the basics of the items, let's go ahead and talk about how to actually use the items. As we already said, pressing 5U will throw an item. However, you can also press 4U as well. If you press back in U, you will throw the item at an upward angle. This is extremely beneficial for many, many reasons. So the first one being, first and most obvious, is that it anti-airs. If the opponent is jumping or you feel like they're gonna jump, this is a great way of stopping them. This is a really, really strong anti-air tool. Just make sure though that it's an item that attacks. If it's an item that doesn't attack, obviously it's not going to anti-air for you. Item toss can also be used in the air to kind of stall out for a second. Every time you throw it, it will kill her jump momentum. So if you want to try to kind of like fake a jump, you can use it that way. And you can still hold back to kind of do the little air stall. So you can air stall yourself and an item in the air. And lastly, it should be noted that you can hold the button. So if you want to kind of buy some time or keep your opponent guessing, you can hold the button. and she will stall for just a couple of seconds, and then as soon as you let it go, she will throw it. But also notably, if you press an attack button, such as like 5L, she'll cancel it. So let's say there's an item that you just don't want. Let's say I don't want this bomb. Boom, it's gone. I'm on the next one. I don't want this cheese. Boom, it's gone. You can do this in the air too. And when you get really used to playing this character, you'll be doing this a lot. That way you can cycle to items that you actually want, because canceling an item is faster than throwing an item. So it's a good way to get rid of quote unquote bad items and get to the good items that you actually want to throw out. Okay, so that's the basics of the item toss. Now the item system doesn't end there. She still has her last special move that we haven't talked about, and that is the cannon. Whenever you do her neutral special, it will summon a cannon. And this cannon has a lot going on. Let's talk about it. So first things first, when you summon the cannon, that will give her an item idea. So rather than using unique to throw an item, you can always fire that item out of the cannon by just pressing the special button a second time. If you just want to set the cannon down and do nothing, you can do that too. It's also important to note that when the cannon pops out, that is actually an attack. So you can string into the cannon and fire it on the opponent's block all at the same time. But keep in mind, this is not at all guaranteed. The opponent can, and 90% of the time they will roll through the cannon. So just always keep an eye on that. So that's the first way of using the cannon, calling it and then directly firing afterwards. The second way is to simply summon it and then throw an item into it manually. So as long as a cannon is on the screen, you can press unique to feed it items. After you feed it 3 items, it will disappear. But until you feed it 3 items, it will stay on the screen literally forever, even if you get hit, even if you get comboed, even if you get hit by a super. As long as the round doesn't end, or you don't de-summon it, or you don't use 3 items, it will always be there forever. Now, that's just for the basic cannon placement. So that was a light cannon. The light cannon will always fire the projectile forward. But there are many, 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 many more ways to call the cannon. If you hold down light special, you'll summon a cannon in the air. The air cannon fires forward, but at a downward angle. So this one, the benefit to this one is that you can jump and feed it a lot more easily. You can jump and feed the ground one as well, but the air one's just a little bit easier to feed out of the air because obviously it's closer to you. So if you're fighting an opponent who's throwing fireballs, or you're just afraid that they're going to shoot something at you, air cannon is very, very good for that. Also, it can be good for tagging a roll if you hit it at the right angle. Next up, the medium cannon. This points the cannon up, and this is actually the best cannon angle that she has available. Because it points the cannon up, it shoots all of her items as an anti-air. So this works on multiple levels. It stops people from jumping to a degree, and even if they don't jump, as you can see, it makes all of your items extremely plus. If I shoot the beach ball from here, -1 on the straight cannon, but on the angle cannon, +21. Because it arcs up and falls down slowly, it just takes up more screen space, so it ends up being much more plus on block and on hit. So when you're setting up your cannons, keep that in mind, that the medium cannon is really, really good. And of course, if you hold medium, you get the air version. This one can be hard to use if you're too far away because the item is just going to shoot directly into the floor. But if you angle it right, this cannon is one of the best because it actually does beat rolls. Now, before we start talking about the EX cannons, it is very important to mention the fact that the light and medium cannons can actually coexist together. If I summon a medium cannon, that does not lock me out of summoning a light cannon. They take up different spaces on the screen, so you're allowed to not only have both on the screen at the same time, but they will actually interact with each other as well. You can get some really crazy combination angles of attacks going on. And it still doesn't end there. You can also have ground light, air light, ground medium, and air medium all at the same time. So you can have up to 4 cannons on screen and all shooting at different angles and all interacting with each other at random, kooky, crazy ways. So keeping all of that in mind, that brings us to the EX cannon. What the EX cannon does is simply summon 2 cannons for you at the same time. Because ordinarily it's kind of hard to get 2 cannons on the screen while the opponent is, you know, trying to chase you down and attack you. But at the cost of your EX, you get to place 2 immediately. Now, the good thing is this is kind of free because every time you do it, if you look at the card on the top left, it'll start ticking back up. So by the time you do this and you feed all of the cannons, the card will basically almost be ready again. It's hard for you to feed the cannons fully without the card being, you know, at least like around 70% full. So anytime you feel like doing an EX, it's pretty much a good idea. Not only that, the EX will fire both items at the same time. So if you have a really good item, it's pretty much always a good idea to use the EX because instead of just having, you know, 1 of a good item, you'll have 2. And lastly, when it comes to the ultimate cannon, this one is just pretty standard. It is just an ultimate fireball. Now, the good thing about this is it's relatively fast. It goes across the screen super quick. And the best thing about it is it pushes the opponent full screen away from you. Not only that, it does amazing chip damage. So anytime you get the opponent to block this, it's worth it because not only do you get a lot of super meter back for making people block ultimates, but you're buying yourself space with a zoning character, you're sort of anti-zoning, and you're chipping them all in one go. So this is by far one of her go-to ultimate skills. All right, so now that we understand how the items and cannons work generally, let's quickly break down all of the items available. We already showed a lot of examples of the beach ball. This is just her very generic item. It doesn't really do much. It's just sort of like your filler. It's not bad, but it's not that great either. It's just your, basically like her universal poke. Next item is the bomb. If you have played Guilty Gear ever in your life, you might recognize this as the Faust bomb. It is pretty much the exact same idea. Throw it, you wait a couple seconds, it explodes. Key difference here though, you can't interact with it and it doesn't hurt her. It only hurts the opponent. So the good thing about this item is it does major damage on hit, and it's extremely plus on block. You can see I'm plus 93. The only downside is when you throw it as an item, it does not hurt the opponent. It has no attack box. However, if you use it out of the cannon, it does. Not only does it have an attack box out of the cannon, but it blows up immediately. So how you use this item will be up to you. I recommend using it out of the cannon, especially EX cannon, because if you hit 2 of them, it really hurts. Next up, the cannonball. This is a great item. If you toss it, it is extremely plus from any range. This is really good as a block string ender because you can see +6. And again, like most of our other moves, the further away, the more plus you are. So this is a fantastic move to just throw out. Works great as an anti-air like we talked about before. And if you fire this from the cannon, it is also very plus, has a lot of pushback. And if this connects with an opponent on hit, it will launch them up for combo extensions. Next item is the spike ball. This is by far one of her best items. This is one of those items where anytime you see it, you're gonna wanna use it right away. When you throw it, it rolls slowly across the screen and locks the opponent in block stun. Just throwing this out at neutral is really strong because you can just run behind it and the opponent has to just deal with it. As you can see, just from them blocking it, I'm plus 162. If it hits them, it's very easy to convert it into a combo because they get hit a million times. And even better than the cannonball, it gives you even more juggle time. Moving on to the smoke bomb. This is one of her dud items. This doesn't really do much, sadly. So when you see this one, you're gonna wanna try to skip it as quickly as you can. But for what it does, it just puts smoke on the screen. I believe it's supposed to obscure you for potential mix-ups, but yeah, it's not really that useful in that area, in my opinion. When you throw it normally, it does not harm the opponent, so you can't use it as an anti-air or a block string extender. But if you fire it from the cannon, it is +1. It'll just very slightly put them in block stun, but that's only from far away. If you're close, it's still negative. That's actually punishable right there. So be careful when firing it from the cannon. It also does not give you any sort of juggle property. The opponent recovers from this very quickly. All around, this is what we would call a dud item. And the polar opposite of that, the best item by far, the star. This one, what can I say? You just throw it out and it does stuff. When you throw the star out, it'll just bounce around the screen, and it's just a constant, persistent threat. It is very, very useful. It does so much. The thing that's so good about it is it has momentum. As you can see, when I throw it on the ground, it bounces very slowly. But when I throw it in the air, it gains the momentum from being thrown out of the air. And the same thing, if I do it up, it keeps that upward momentum. Jump and throw it up, same thing, upward momentum. There's just a lot you can do with this. If you shoot it out of the cannon, it'll be persistent depending on the angle you fire it. Obviously, this is her best item by far. It's just, it does everything. Anytime you see it pop up, it's gonna be a good idea to use the double cannon. I recommend doing the double cannon hold, because of course when you do double cannon hold the button down, you'll do the 2-angle version, and when you do it like that, you really maximize the stars because they bounce everywhere and go crazy for a couple of seconds. And this is just a couple of seconds where the opponent basically can't move and just has to hold your offense. The star is really, really powerful. Now, the last two items are our situational duds. So the first one is the heart. As you would expect, it gives you some health back. So getting health back is good, but this can also heal the opponent. So this is the item that makes sure you are paying attention, because if you're not paying attention and you autopilot a cannon, you're just going to fire health at your opponent. So because this exists, you have to always, always, always keep an eye on the up next item, because not only can this ruin your combos, it can ruin your block strings, but you can heal the opponent. If the heart pops up, either call it and cancel it to get to the next item, or throw it up so that you can get it yourself if you have the time. And the last item, of course, is the cheese. It's the exact same thing as the heart, except this one gives you super meter. All the same things that we just talked about with the heart apply here. Make sure you don't feed the opponent meter, especially not in this game where meter is so powerful. Always pay attention. If it pops up, either skip it or feed it to yourself. Next up, let's briefly talk about Vikala's dash attack, starting with her 6-6L. Very, very standard. It's a 6-6L, you know what it does. It's plus, lets you keep your offense going. You're gonna use it in your stagger game. That's universal across the board. Her 6-6M, however, is a little bit different. It is an overhead attack. So if the opponent is crouching, it will hit them for a little bit of damage and a sort of reset. It doesn't knock them down unless you get a counter hit, but you are plus enough to continue your pressure. So this is good to throw out every now and then if you're trying to catch the opponent off guard. However, be aware that if they do block it, it is punishable, so don't make it too predictable. And then her 6-6H is a pseudo lariat attack. This doesn't have too many use cases. The main idea is just that it sort of like knocks the opponent down and knocks them away. Basically, both her 66M and 66H are kind of designed to go hand in hand with the mousetrap. Because if you have the mousetrap out and you connect either of these, they'll combo into it. So neither of these are very good on their own, but if you set them up, they become pretty strong. Moving on to her supers. Her regular super is very, very standard. It does a pretty short range invincible attack. You can use this as a combo ender or as a get off me. If you connect it, you get this cool little parade cutscene. And a pretty decent knockdown situation afterwards. Her SSBA is a full screen beam. So if you connect it from full screen, it will bounce them off the wall to give you some pretty decent Oki, because again, it's a hard knockdown. So this is also invincible, so if you have like a big read and you feel like you can tag somebody with it, it's not too bad to be used there. If you connect it from up close, this of course is your biggest damaging super. Not only is that one of the best supers in the game, it also is very dynamic. Every character in the game has their own unique reaction to it. And it has its own special KO notification too. Very cool level 3. But basically, her super and her SSBA are pretty universal. You're just going to use them, as I said, as a get off of me or as a combo ender. Okay, so that does it for the basics of her kit. We should have a really good understanding of how all of her moves and buttons and all that good stuff actually work. Now let's talk about how to put all of that together into her general gameplay strategy. This is where we actually answer the question, how do you play Vikala? So, as you probably guessed by now, the focus of Vikala's game plan is to zone. She has a bunch of projectiles and a bunch of things that are set up to annoy the opponent. So the general idea of her is to try to keep the opponent at bay while slowly chipping away at their health. So how do we do this? Prioritizing her items. You always want to keep an eye on her items. If you have a good item available, try to use it as soon as you can. But until that happens, you want to sort of rotate her special moves, because all of her special moves are pretty decent on their own. When you combine them all together, that's when they actually become pretty effective. Let's look at some examples. So for example number 1, her fireball. We talked about how these fireballs are very good. The high one is plus, lets you keep your turn. The low one stops rolls. Now the big weakness of these is that they are very easy to jump over, and they are very, very, very unsafe on whiff. So if you do this, somebody jumps, you're potentially cooked. That's where the trap comes in. So if you have the trap out, this is going to automatically protect you from jumps. So as you can see, by utilizing the mousetrap, you're able to throw your fireballs with a lot more confidence, because as long as it's up, it's going to be very, very hard for the opponent to jump at you. Not only that, but I hinted at it earlier, anytime the trap is out, the opponent is going to know that they can destroy it. And anytime it's up, it's going to take the opponent's attention, and it's going to basically switch their game plan over to, oh, I gotta destroy that. That just opens them up to being attacked. The high trap does not hit crouching opponents. However, when people try to attack your trap, it usually makes their hitbox big enough for you to actually tag them. So by them trying to either jump over the trap or attack the trap, they're making themselves more vulnerable to your fireball game. Example number 2 is the pinwheel and the mousetrap. These two items work really well together too. You can use it pretty much in the same way we just talked about the fireball. If the mousetrap is out, you can very confidently poke with the horizontal or the anti-air version, because the only way to basically beat the anti-air version is to run underneath it, but obviously they can't run underneath it if you have the mousetrap out. but it also works really well the other way. Anytime the opponent blocks the pinwheel, you are incredibly plus. But unlike the mousetrap, the pinwheel does have a limitation on it. You cannot call it back to back. Right here, I'm literally mashing the pinwheel, and as you can see, there's about a second or two where after it disappears, you can't call it again. You can see like Vikala just walking. That's because you're not allowed to call it again. What you can do, however, is call the mousetrap immediately. So as you can see, while they were still blocking the pinwheel, I was able to do the mousetrap. And by the time they block the mousetrap, I can do another pinwheel. So as you can see, these two things line up really quickly and really easily. If you just cycle these two moves, you can be pretty annoying and push the opponent near the corner and do some pretty decent chip all in one go. And of course, you can push these examples even further by adding cannons into the mix. Just like the mousetrap, when you have a cannon on the screen, it's going to draw the opponent's attention because they're not going to want you shooting stuff at them with this cannon. So if you have a mousetrap out, that is going to usually buy you time to set up a cannon on the angle of your choice. And if you have a mousetrap and a cannon, that gives you time to feed it or do your pinwheel into mousetrap into cannon, whatever you need to do. Basically, you need to have a good read on how your opponent likes to move, and all you got to do is get them to just block one of these things. If they block the mousetrap, that's going to give you time to put out the pinwheel, which gives you time to put out a cannon, which could also give you time to put out a mousetrap. So as you can see, her move list is very circular, and they all kind of feed into each other in a nice little loop. If you feel like you need to buy some time against a really aggressive opponent, a good way of doing this is to utilize your item toss. The back item toss is really good if you're not sure whether the opponent is going to attack from the front or from the air, because as long as they're not directly in front of you, the back item toss will usually beat both options. It'll usually beat a run-up attack and a jump at the same time. Just remember that when you're playing Vikala, she's a very annoying character, so people are going to be running at you, doing 6XL, they're going to be jumping at you, and they're going to be rolling like crazy. So those are the main things at neutral that you're gonna have to be watching out for. When it comes to rolls, the best way to beat it is to either sweep or do your 2M. But I should mention that a well-placed trap can also automatically punish the recovery on a roll, so keep that in mind as well. If you find yourself feeling sort of suffocated and you're having trouble getting any of your items on the screen, don't forget about EX Trap. EX Trap comes out really fast, and it's something that the opponent has to deal with. They have to jump over it, they have to spot dodge, or they have to roll. And while they're doing that, that's gonna give you time to set up your pinwheel or your cannons or whatever you need. So this is always worthwhile to throw out when you feel like you need to buy some time. Even better is the ultimate version. If you do the ultimate version, this is a great option because the opponent has to deal with this, but you get your card back right away. So keep that in mind. The EX and ultimate traps are good ways of either switching from zoning to offense or buy you time to get your cannon set up. If you're having trouble getting set up because of your opponent's projectiles, don't forget about your ultimate fireball. Ultimate fireball will eat through projectiles from full screen and give you plenty of time to switch to the offensive or get your cannon set up. This is also a great way of confirming stray hits from full screen. Let's say that you throw out your medium trap and it actually connects. It's very easy to confirm this with your ultimate fireball, even from max distance. Keep this in mind too when you're firing your items. If you end up firing an item with a lot of hit stun, that can be a good way to turn a stray hit into an actual combo into a knockdown. And speaking of ultimate cannon, I kind of hinted at it earlier, but the main idea of this move is to just push the opponent away while doing massive chip damage. Of course, the opponent can always spot dodge this on reaction, so you can't just throw it out. If you look right here, I'm going to tell Galleon to evade as soon as she blocks the pinwheel. Now, if I do the pinwheel and then fireball right after it, you can see it becomes guaranteed. So by using either the medium pinwheel or the mousetrap, you can force the opponent to block it, and it puts them in an inescapable position. If they block the mousetrap out of the air, you always get this guaranteed, because mousetrap out of the air is insanely plus. So anytime you see a potential to force them to block this move, I say take it. In my opinion, it's definitely worth the meter and the pushback. It is just such a good move for zoning the opponent out. Okay, so next up, let's go ahead and talk about her offense. Now that we understand her general game plan, let's talk about what to do when we're actually trying to apply pressure to the opponent. So this is an area where Vikala definitely does not really shine. While her neutral and zoning is very, you know, robust, and there's just a lot she can do there, her up close pressure is admittedly sort of weak and kind of vanilla, I would say. When pressuring the opponent with her, you're really just going to be sticking to the basics of just staggering and throw shimmying. Up close, she just has her 2L. You can do 2LLL, and that'll leave you plus, or you can do 2L 5L, that'll leave you +4, or 5L 2L, stuff like that. Just very, very generic staggers. The purpose of stuff like this would just be to, you know, bait out a reaction from the opponent. If you push them away, you can go into pinwheel from here. If you go for a stagger right here, like looking for a throw tech, and they don't take the bait, you can go ahead and use this distance to throw your pinwheel and be plus and continue your pressure. So mostly she's kind of generic. You're just going to be doing 6-6L, 5L, 2L, close L into a grab attempt, close L delay 5H if they try to tech, close L walk back to bait a guard cancel, all the usual generic stuff. In this department, she doesn't really have much unique options to go for. The biggest thing is a little bit we talked about earlier is her EX pinwheel. If you are going for up close pressure and you don't get anything, you can always EX pinwheel to keep your turn for a little bit longer. The only other notable offensive option that she has is the item toss. If you have a good item, you can throw that to continue your pressure, because things like the cannonball just allow you to just basically start your pressure over again. So if you ever want to stagger into something like the cannonball and you get lucky and you get another item like that, then that is a good way to extend your pressure. And of course, she does have her overhead. It is 26 frames, so it's a little on the slow side, but you can sneak it in from time to time. It works pretty great as a throw shimmy because of the fact that she jumps, but just keep in mind that even if the opponent tries to throw and you jump over it with the overhead, you don't get too big of a reward, just a little bit of damage and a semi knockdown situation. So again, don't rely on this too much, but it is an option for getting some openings here and there. We can't talk about offense in this game without talking about the elephant in the room, guard cancel. Guard cancel is all offense's worst nightmare in this game. It is like the most effective thing ever at stopping offense. However, I will say this is one area where Vikala's offense is slightly above average, I would say. She can pretty effectively navigate around guard cancel by using certain special moves, namely the pinwheel. If you do medium from a distance and then cancel it into pinwheel, it will actually bait a guard cancel for free. This works also with the item toss, believe it or not. If you do medium into item toss, you will also beat guard cancel. And if it's a good item, you can potentially get a punish on a guard cancel. So to summarize, for her offense, it's very similar to her neutral in the fact that you just need to be creative. You need to keep an eye on your items. If you get the corner, pair up your different tools. That way it makes it hard for the opponent to get out. If you have a trap out, just like a neutral, that gives you a lot of freedom to throw the pinwheel. It's going to make it hard for them to roll. It's going to make it hard for them to jump. and you're just going to be able to sort of loop your offense. Even just doing this is pretty darn strong in the corner because you can alternate between the far and the close. You just got to be creative and have a good read on the opponent, because ultimately you're trying to get them to lose their patience and do something that you can punish, like a jump or a bad roll. And if you get a punish on those, that's when you actually get some really big damage. All right, so now that we understand her neutral and her offense, let's go ahead and talk about what happens when we actually get a hit. Let's go ahead and talk about how to do her combos. Vikala's combos are kind of basic, but also kind of difficult at the same time, due to the fact that they rely on her random items. This is where RNG can either help you or hurt you. For her bigger extensions, you need a good item. So a lot of times you'll probably be doing shorter combos, but when you get a good item, you can do bigger combos. I'll go ahead and show you several examples. We'll start with at neutral, and then we'll go to the corner. Okay, so now that we understand how her combo game works, let's talk about the equally important part of combos, and that is the Oki afterwards. With each of the combos that I demonstrated there, I tried to show an example of the Oki that you get afterwards. Let's go ahead and talk about that in a little bit more detail real quick. Okay, so every time you actually get a hit with Vikala, that is pretty much an opportunity for you to get set up. So 9 times out of 10 when you aim with EX Cannon, it's going to give you the opportunity to set up either a medium or a light trap afterwards. You do the medium trap if you want something to immediately attack their block. So if you have like a more like aggressive opponent, someone who you feel like is going to mash right away since they're getting up, go for the medium, because that's going to bite them as soon as they wake up, giving you time to do another one, throw a pinwheel, or feed the cannons. Now, if you feel like the opponent is going to be a little bit more patient, you can end with the light mousetrap there, And then this gives you time to basically just hold them in place. If you're near the corner, this is a very good option because you basically are all set up, and like this is the most optimal position because right here, they're basically just trapped. If they try to jump or roll, the bear trap is most likely gonna get them. And then you are in the perfect position to throw an extremely plus pinwheel, and you can feed the cannons from a very safe distance. And from this distance, even if they do roll, it's gonna be very hard for them to interact with you. So use the light one if you want more of a setup situation rather than a direct pressure situation. Next, this is not just limited to near the corner or anything, this is anywhere on screen. These hard knockdown routes, these you can only do with a good item, like the cannonball, the star, or the spike. And then if you have enough meter. This is a refund route. If you don't know what a refund route is, that's where you get your meter back for juggling with an ultimate skill. So right here, Cannonball relaunches them. We do the ultimate mousetrap. And if you take a look at the meter up there, I was refunded 25 meter. So that actually only cost 25 to get this hard knockdown. Once you get the hard knockdown, basically the same thing applies here. They're always gonna be at this distance no matter what. That's the great thing about Ultimate Fireball, is that it leaves them at the perfect distance for you to do a very meaty medium trap. And again, that's going to bite as soon as they get up, so that gives you time to feed the cannons or do whatever it is you want to do. And in the last Oki example, I showed a few routes where the mousetrap ends up behind the opponent. When the mousetrap is behind the opponent on a hard knockdown, this is actually amazing because you get some pretty decent mix-up potential from this. Whenever it's behind them, if you land the overhead, instead of it just being whatever knockdown, it actually becomes a combo opportunity because the overhead will actually knock them into the trap, which will activate, and then you can juggle from there. Not only that, if you happen to land a grab, the grab will throw them into the trap, and same thing, you get a juggle from there. And even if you don't take either option, just having the trap behind the opponent really heavily enhances your staggers, because once you start staggering, you're going to slowly push them towards it, and then there's no way for them to destroy it when it's behind them, so that can enhance your block strings as well, because as soon as the bite goes off, you get to run up and start pressure all over again. When it comes to corner Oki, the same exact idea applies. With the way this route that I showed you is set up, it gives you a lot of options, because at this point right here, when you do the EX Fireball, this is basically a decision moment. If you do the EX Fireball and the opponent's health is low enough to kill, then you can switch gears to go into the super finisher, which would basically just be you going into Raging Strike and then into EX Trap into super. But if you're not gonna kill, then you can go into the Oki route. You have both options here, and it leaves you a lot of wiggle room to decide whether or not you want to go for that kill, go for the big damage, or go for the Oki. If you go for the Oki, you're just going to immediately do the ultimate trap here. And what that does is multiple things all at one time. It's going to give you the hard knockdown from this, but not only that, as we talked about before, because it is a juggled ultimate skill, it's going to refund you your bar. So this only costs you 25 meter to do, and it's pushing you away from the corner. That's the most important part. As soon as you do this, it shoots you away from the corner and leaves you in the most optimal Oki position for Vikala to be in. Now, you've got two cannons set up on them. Make sure it's the angled ones. You have the two cannons set up on them that they have to deal with, and they got to get up into this Oki mousetrap here. And because the combo was so long, you get your pinwheel back by the time the mousetrap goes off. So mousetrap goes off, pinwheel comes back, you still have another mousetrap to deal with, and you can still throw items into the cannons as well. And with that, we have officially covered all the major aspects of how to play Vikala. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I really hope this helps you out a lot. I hope now you feel like you have the knowledge to get started on this character. I hope this knowledge just in general helps you, even if you already knew a little something with Vikala. Hopefully you learned a little something. If you did, again, I would really appreciate a like on the video, as it does help out quite a lot. Also consider subscribing, as it does help out the channel and I do greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be doing a lot more Grand Blue guides and guides for other games as well in the near future, so make sure you don't miss any of that. You can also stop by my streams anytime. I stream most nights around 8 p.m. Central on Twitch, and I'm still in a very big Vikala mood, so you might catch me actually playing her in online matches, so feel free to come by there if you have any more questions or you just want to come hang out with us in the Twitch gang. But as always, really appreciate you guys. If you want to see more from me, check out any of the playlists at the end of the video. But you guys have a good one. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.